Music defines the journey through the Souls universe, and the games house some of the best tracks I've heard in my entire life. I'll link the last Souls music top 10 video in the description so you can see that too. Honestly, I could do this 10 more times. We could rank 10 top 10 lists. Alright, enough wasting time. Number 10, Ornstein and Smo. Every time I talk about the music in Souls games, I try to separate the art from the artist. Wait, no, I meant separate the boss from the music. But it's just about impossible. The thing is, we're not talking about the typical song. We're talking about music that accompanies an experience. And everything to do with that experience influences the music. Because the writers make the music to accompany that moment. All of that is to say, ONS is so distinct from the world of Dark Souls 1. Similarly to Anor Londo itself. It's unabashedly grand, albeit with a hint of brutality in the ominous brass and strings sprinkled throughout. I particularly enjoy this build-up as it's probably the biggest, grandest sound in all of Dark Souls 1. Number 9, Abyss Watchers. This theme is such a standout in a sea of huge spectacle soundtracks in Dark Souls 3. What really makes this one stand out is how intimate and cascading it is, with strings prancing up and down and that beautiful vocal part, but it's delicate rather than powerful. There's a melancholic, nostalgic flair while not entering the calm territory of something like Gwyn's theme, which, like I said, makes it carve out its own space in the list of amazing themes. And it matches the atmosphere of the battle so perfectly. What I will say though is without the Alex Rowe remix of this track, I don't think it would have made it to my top 10 here. The way he changes the pulse of the music to be much more driving than fluid changes the tone from simply melancholic to inspirational, and the brightness of the strings in his recording is even more powerful. There's no denying the strength of the original composition, but the remix takes what worked so well and amplifies it, as all amazing remixes should. Number 8, Epilogue. So many of the Souls songs that aren't attached to mega boss fights suffer in popularity. As I mentioned earlier, it is definitively impossible to completely separate the song from the moment. But in the case of Epilogue, it still manages to be a profound, somber lamentation of what's transpired, yet still carries a dash of hope onwards, with a flickering flame. This is all despite the fact that you're looking at some scrolling credits as you listen. has such a legato feel, which is so different from the rest of the soundtrack, except for maybe Abyss Watchers, as we mentioned previously. Longing is another song that underscores the finale of one of the main 3 Souls games that manages to reach unexpected emotional heights. Typically, Longing would be the song in this spot for me, but at this moment in time, Epilogue, with its heavy dramatization and sweeping build-up through its extended runtime, has floored me more emotionally. I find myself returning to it more and more every week. It's subdued until it isn't, and when it goes all out, it holds nothing back. Even though it's not attached to a fight, it is trying to underscore the finale of the entire Souls series. Try to write a finale for the entire iconic series and see how well it goes. Well, Yuka Kitamura made it happen as per usual and passed with more than flying colors. Number 7, Dark Eater Midir. Midir is a theme that begins like a typical Dark Souls 3 theme until it breaks into this dissonant, haunting waltz with a melody that prances around like the ancestor spirit deer itself. It goes along so well with the theme of Midir being corrupted by the abyss, and that part alone is so iconic and catchy that I find myself playing in my head on repeat. But as the song goes on, you hear it constantly shifting keys and pacing. It feels like an endless build-up despite the fact that it's firing on all cylinders at all times. Kind of reminds me of how Lady Maria's theme would sound translated into a Dark Souls 3 context. And I mean, sign me up for that, baby, you know what I'm saying? Number 6, Living Failures. From the moment it begins, you can tell that this is going to be nothing like anything else here. Living Failures is quite obviously the let's say, black sheep of the group. It's not even particularly melodic for the entire first half, but this is the pinnacle of tension songs that I've found in Bloodborne. Another one that pulls this off wonderfully in a little bit of a different style is Gascoigne's theme, which feels more like horror music with constant rhythmic patterns that mimic the boss's endless hunting for you. This one is distinctly alien, and the masterful composition utilizes every trick in a composer's book to build something that feels simultaneously otherworldly and terrifying. But also beautiful and human. I just can't get enough of that entire final minute. And that's essentially just the outro to a piece filled with insanity. The highlight is clearly the transition into Phase 2 though, which just might be the best moment in any of these songs, up there with Gale's finale in Phase 3 and Ludwig's transition to Phase 2. It's not just about how powerful it is on its own, which it is, but also about the context in which it is unleashed upon the listener. It's after all of this haunting, dissonant buildup, and then glory. Number 5, Yorm the Giant. The Dark Souls 3 soundtrack is probably my personal favorite in the series, simply based on the sheer quantity of songs that I'd place in my top 20 from Soulsborne. But I will unfortunately admit that there is a samey element to some of the big, bombastic, huge choirs. At times it can feel like all the songs are kind of occupying this similar space. So how does Yorm manage to distinguish himself from his peers, despite being, again, a big, bombastic, choir-centric piece? Well, it's by being distinctly rhythmic and masculine. The real showstopper here though is the finale, which uses breaks in the music to full effect. Every time the male choir takes a small pause just to unleash fury in the next breath makes it sound like the power of the giant himself is being manifested in their voices. And I can't help but feel violently inspired every time I get to hear it. Number 4, Great Grey Wolf Sif. This is undoubtedly my pick for the most underrated theme in Dark Souls 1, and maybe even the series. Every time anyone talks about the Dark Souls 1 soundtrack, they jump straight to ONS or even Gwyn, but my personal preference easily lies with Sif. This is for the utilization of completely unique instrumentation, from harps to flutes to harpsichord, and constant shifts in tone and dynamics. I think some people underrate it for the inconsequential nature of the track. It clearly doesn't sound world-ending in the same way that some of the others do, but just take a listen to the live version and tell me you really think the solo piano of Gwyn's theme tops Sif and his orchestral prancing. I'm sure some of you still will, but seriously, give it a chance beyond your nostalgia. Number 3, Soul of Cinder / Gwyn. Okay, I know I just pooped on Gwyn a little bit, but I'm putting these two together as a pair because the context of Gwyn to Soul of Cinder is what makes them such powerful tracks. And again, the context of the gameplay does play a role here, knowing that you're facing the summoned spirit of Gwyn himself with Soul of Cinder. Of course, none of this would be possible without the undoubtedly iconic original Gwyn theme. It is startling because of how this is the end of a huge story, but it's a husk flailing around in a flickering cave, desperate to hold on to some semblance of his former glory. But then we got Soul of Cinder, baby! This track is simply an improvement in almost every way, from the bombastic and unashamed first half to the introspective and referential second. To hear two distinct worlds, Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3, collide so perfectly musically is a dream come true, and there's a reason these two are so high on so many people's lists. It's dramatic, epic, and emotional as hell. What else could you ask for? Number 2, Sir Elan. This song plays as a sort of precursor to what would soon come in Dark Souls 3's main theme. But seriously, listen to the entire Dark Souls 2 soundtrack and tell me that this song was meant to be here. It stands out so much. It feels like they accidentally put a Dark Souls 3 song into Dark Souls 2, as the instrumental and sound quality alone feel like a huge step up from just about everything else in Dark Souls 2. But the song prances around like a dance, hosting massive sweeping choirs and rapidly paced strings. The way it bounces back and forth between strings, male and female voices makes it feel almost like a call and response, one that's at a breakneck pace that still holds hints of melancholy. A perfect recipe for a perfectly underrated Souls theme. Number 1, Lich Dragon Fortisax. God, I underrated this song on my first playthrough. What a massive drop. And I'm not even gonna talk, just appreciate some of these moments that I pick for you because the whole thing is a banger. It's too bad the fight is over before you get a chance to hear a lot of these because it's just about flawless. But that's my list. Thanks for watching and check out this video on the top 10 best songs of the series here. Peace.